The planet looked calm at first. From the Aurora's observation deck, Captain Myra watched the horizon. Endless black soil stretched far, cut through by a narrow road of deep, unnatural darkness. It was the horror path, as the humanoid locals called it. No one had ever returned from walking it. Myra felt a shiver of curiosity, but not fear. She had faced strange worlds before, and this one seemed like a puzzle to solve. Around her, the small crew moved with quiet energy, checking instruments and adjusting scanners. "Captain, sensors show unusual energy along the road," said Lieutenant Ramon. "It's like nothing we've seen before." "Keep recording everything," Myra said. "We'll understand it soon enough." They had come to this distant world for exploration, but the local humanoids made it clear that the path was forbidden. Tall, thin creatures with soft gray skin watched from a distance. Their faces were drawn tight with worry, and every time someone from the crew stepped closer to the road, they muttered under their breath. One humanoid, an elder named Taran, finally spoke. His voice trembled, though he tried to keep it quiet. "Do not go there," he said. "The horror path takes all who enter. No one survives. Stay on the safe ground." Myra studied him carefully. She noticed that even though Taran looked afraid, his eyes held something else: curiosity, the same curiosity that humans often felt. "Why is it dangerous?" Myra asked gently. "What happens to those who walk it?" Taran shook his head. "We do not know exactly. But screams come. Shadows move. The road takes what it wants. Even the bravest do not return. Please, humans, do not walk it." Myra looked at her crew. She saw excitement in their eyes. This was the kind of challenge they trained for. Unlike the humanoids, humans rarely let fear stop them. They used reason and courage together. "We will proceed carefully," she said. "We mean no harm, and we will respect your warnings. But we must explore." The humanoids lowered their heads, unsure if they should beg or watch. The humans started walking toward the black road. The soil was soft and cold under their boots. The air felt heavier as they approached. Their scanners beeped and whined, picking up strange energy waves. Ramon paused. "Captain, I feel something. The air, it's like it's alive." Myra nodded. "Stay close. Watch each other. This is new, yes, but nothing we cannot handle." The black road stretched endlessly. From afar, it looked like a ribbon of shadow, darker than night. The humanoids cried out in fear as the humans moved closer. Their voices were filled with trembling emotion, a warning and a plea at once. But Myra and her crew did not look back. Along the road, small lights flickered. At first, Myra thought it was dust or reflections, but the scanners confirmed something else: faint energy signals moving in patterns that were not natural. "Could be life forms we cannot see," said Lieutenant Sara. "Or energy we cannot feel. Either way," Myra said, "we study it. We do not run. That is what makes us human." The first steps onto the horror path felt strange. The ground seemed to hum. Shadows seemed to flicker at the edges of vision. Yet Myra remained calm, and the crew followed. Their presence was steady, unafraid, and each step forward made the black road feel less like a trap and more like a mystery waiting to be solved. Behind them, the humanoids cried again. Their voices rose in fear, echoing across the plains. Myra turned her head for a brief moment and saw tears in their eyes. They were witnessing something new, humans walking into terror without bowing to it. "Captain, they are scared," said Ramon softly. "They have never seen this." Myra smiled faintly. "That is why we are here. To show courage and to learn. Fear is real, yes, but it is not the end. Sometimes, fear can be understood, controlled, or even overcome." The crew moved steadily, recording every signal, every sound, every change in temperature and energy. They walked as carefully as they could, yet they did not hesitate. Shadows shifted at the edges of the road, strange sounds whispered through the air, but no one panicked. Humans had the habit of facing the unknown and using their minds to survive. Hours passed, and the horror path seemed endless. But still, the humans pressed forward. Every step, every observation, brought them closer to understanding the strange road and the energy that terrified the humanoids. And somewhere, deep in the black soil beneath their feet, the first stirrings of the unknown began to notice them. The story of the horror path had begun and humanity had just entered it, unafraid. The humans had taken their first steps onto the horror path, and the road stretched endlessly before them. Its black surface absorbed the sunlight, leaving an unnatural shadow that seemed to swallow the ground. Captain Myro led the crew carefully, her eyes scanning every detail. Around them, the air felt thick, heavy with a strange energy that made their skin tingle. Lieutenant Ramon checked the scanners again. "Captain, the energy readings are fluctuating. It's unlike anything we have encountered. It feels aware." Myra nodded, keeping her voice calm. "We stay together. Observe everything. Fear is not our guide, knowledge is." Behind them, the humanoids watched from a safe distance. Their cries of fear had not stopped, but now a low hum of anxiety filled the air. They could not understand how the humans moved forward with such confidence. They whispered among themselves, shaking their heads, but no one dared approach the road. As the humans continued, the road beneath them seemed to change. Shadows moved in the corners of their eyes, stretching and twisting in impossible ways. The ground pulsed subtly, like a heartbeat. Lieutenant Sorrow paused to record the data. "Captain, look at this. The path itself is reacting to us." Myra stepped closer to her crew. "Keep moving, but stay alert. Every step is a lesson. Every signal tells a story. The humanoids call this place cursed, but we are not bound by fear. We are bound by curiosity and courage." The shadows grew larger as they moved deeper into the road. At first, they were just dark shapes at the edges of vision, but slowly, they began to form figures tall and thin, moving without legs or arms, floating just above the black soil. The crew remained calm, but their scanners detected faint energy spikes whenever the figures shifted. Ramon swallowed hard but spoke steadily. "They are trying to scare us. I can feel it. The energy reacts to our emotions." Myra nodded. "Then we show no fear. Fear is their strength. Courage is ours." The humanoids, watching from a distance, began to cry louder. Their voices rose together, trembling with panic. They had never seen anyone enter the horror path without fleeing. Seeing the humans move forward without hesitation both amazed and terrified them. Suddenly, the path ahead seemed to twist unnaturally. The black road bent in ways it should not, creating illusions of tunnels and walls. The shadows moved faster, reaching toward the humans with long, twisting shapes. Myra raised her hand. "Do not touch us with your fear. We walk with reason, not with panic. Focus on the path, not the shadows." The crew followed her advice. They ignored the shapes that danced and writhed at the edges of sight. They focused on the road beneath their feet and the readings from their scanners. Slowly, the shadows stopped moving aggressively. The figures seemed to shrink, fading when they realized the humans were not afraid. Lieutenant Sorrow whispered, "Captain, the road is calming. It's reacting to our confidence." Myra smiled faintly. "Humans can do this. We face horror, yet we do not let it control us. Courage is more powerful than fear." As they walked, they discovered faint markings on the road, strange symbols glowing softly beneath the black surface. Ramon bent down to examine them. "These are not random. Someone or something made them. They might be warnings, or perhaps instructions. Either way, they exist for those who can read them." The crew carefully documented each marking. Myra sensed that the horror path was more than just a dangerous place. It was a test. The humanoids feared it because they had never passed the trial, but humans were different. Humans observed, learned, and adapted. Hours passed. The sun moved high in the sky, yet the path remained dark, unyielding to light. The crew kept moving steadily. They shared quiet words, encouraging each other, pointing out changes in the shadows, noting differences in the energy pulses. Every observation strengthened their confidence and diminished the power of the road over them. From a distance, the humanoids continued to cry and shake. Their fear was intense, yet their curiosity grew. They had never seen anyone resist the horror path, and the humans' calm determination planted a small seed of hope. Perhaps the curse was not absolute. Perhaps fear was only as strong as those who gave in to it. As evening approached, the crew paused briefly to rest. Myra looked at the road stretching ahead. Its darkness seemed endless, but she felt no fear. She felt a thrill of understanding. This path, terrifying as it was a challenge designed to test courage and intellect. Humans, with their curiosity and persistence, were learning its rhythm. Tomorrow, we go further, Myra said. We observe, we record, and we continue. Fear is not the enemy, it is the teacher. And we are ready to learn. The humanoids watched silently as the humans set up a small camp at the edge of the road. For the first time, some of them whispered among themselves about courage, about bravery, and about the possibility that the horror path could be overcome. And deep in the black road, unseen by human eyes, the first stirrings of the shadows seemed cautious. They had sensed a difference. These humans were not afraid. They would not be easy to frighten. The horror path had met its first challenge, and humanity's journey along it had only just begun. The night fell over the horror path, and the black road seemed even darker. The humans had set up a small camp at the edge of the path, their lights casting soft glows on the strange surface. Captain Myra studied the readings on her tablet. The energy pulses along the road were stronger now, almost as if the path itself was aware of their presence. Lieutenant Ramon whispered, "Captain, it's reacting more quickly tonight. The signals are sharper. More focused." Myra nodded. "Then we remain calm. Observation and patience are our tools. Fear gives them power, but courage diminishes it." From a distance, the humanoids watched, their cries rising again. They gathered in clusters, hiding behind rocks and low walls. Their voices were filled with worry, their eyes wide with terror. "Stop them," an elder murmured. "They will not survive the path. It will take them." But the humans did not falter. They were calm, sharing quiet words of encouragement and checking each other's equipment. Their determination radiated a strength the humanoids had never seen before. As the humans prepared to continue, strange shapes began to appear along the edge of the road. Shadows rose like tall, twisting trees, moving in ways that made no sense. They stretched and leaned toward the humans, yet none made contact. Myra's crew felt a shiver, but they held their ground. "These shapes," said Lieutenant Sara, "they seem to follow our movements. Every step we take, they respond. But they do not touch us. It's almost like they are testing us." Myra studied the shadows. Perhaps the path wants to measure courage. Perhaps it feeds on fear. The humanoids believe it is a curse, but we are learning its rules. Stay steady, and it cannot harm us. The humanoids cried louder. Their voices echoed across the plains, carried by the wind. They could not understand how the humans could walk so confidently while their own kind trembled. They whispered about the humans' courage, about the strange ability to move forward without fear. Suddenly, a cold wind rose from the black road, carrying faint whispers. The humans turned toward it, hearing faint words that seemed to imitate their thoughts. Some sounded like doubts. Others sounded like old fears. Ramon clenched his fists. It's trying to scare us with our own minds. Myra's voice was firm. Ignore it. Thoughts are our own. Courage is stronger than whispers. Keep walking. Keep observing. That is our strength. As they moved, the shadows seemed to shrink slightly. The whispers faded. The crew noticed that the energy spikes became smaller when they focused on their path and their mission. Their courage weakened the road's influence. The humanoids watched in awe. Their cries had not stopped, but some began to quiet their voices. They whispered to each other, asking questions they had never dared to ask. Could courage truly overcome the horror path? Could humans really resist what had terrified generations? Myra noticed the symbols on the road glowing faintly again. Look, she said to her team. These markings are changing. Perhaps they are responding to our calmness. Perhaps the path is alive in a way we can understand. Sarah knelt to examine a symbol. It seems almost like a pattern of energy, a language of fear and courage combined. If we can read it, we might learn how to move safely through the road. The crew spent hours carefully recording every symbol, every movement of the shadows, every pulse of energy. The horror path was no longer just a place of fear, it was a challenge, a puzzle, and the humans were slowly learning its logic. From the safety of their hiding places, the humanoids observed with wide eyes. Their cries were mixed now with whispers of hope. They had never seen anyone defy the path's power. They had never imagined that courage could change the rules of the road. Myra stood at the edge of the camp, looking at the endless black ahead. Tomorrow, she said softly, we go further. We face whatever comes next with calm and determination. Fear is real, yes, but it cannot control us. Humans can learn, humans can adapt, and humans can overcome. As the crew settled to rest for the night, the shadows on the horror path seemed to retreat slightly. The whispers faded into the darkness. The road was still mysterious, still dangerous, but the humans had shown that bravery could push back against the unknown. The humanoids, watching from a distance, whispered among themselves. They had never seen such courage, and for the first time, they wondered if the horror path's power was not absolute. If humans could walk it without fear, maybe, just maybe, the path could be understood, studied, and finally overcome. And in the darkness of the black road, the shadows stirred cautiously. They had sensed a difference. These humans were not like the others who had walked the plains. They were fearless, determined, and clever. The horror path would have to change its ways to stop them. Humanity had proven something new, fear could be challenged, and courage could shine even in the darkest places. The next morning, the sun rose weakly over the black horizon, casting a pale glow on the horror path. Captain Myro led her crew forward, their boots pressing carefully into the dark soil. The symbols on the road flickered faintly, as if acknowledging their presence. Look at the energy readings, Lieutenant Ramon said. It is more active than yesterday. Something is moving along the path. Myra narrowed her eyes. Then we pay close attention. Step by step, we learn its patterns. Fear has no power here, only observation and courage. As they advanced, the shadows along the edges of the road began to take shape. This time, they were more than flickering forms. Tall, twisting figures rose from the darkness. They had no faces, no limbs like humans, only fluid shapes that moved with eerie intent. Their presence made the air colder, heavier. Lieutenant Sorrow whispered, "Captain, they are alive. Or at least aware of us. They react to our movements." Myra stepped forward calmly. "We are not afraid. That is what matters. Observe, record, and do not let them unsettle you." The shadow figures began to approach cautiously. They did not touch the humans, but their forms stretched and leaned toward them, testing their reactions. Every tremor of doubt from the humans would have fed the shadows, yet the crew remained steady. Their calmness made the shapes hesitate, as if they were unsure how to respond. From afar, the humanoids watched, trembling and crying. Their fear grew as the humans walked directly among the shadows. "They will not survive," one whispered. "The path will take them as it always does." Myra's voice cut through the darkness. "Do not give them power," she said softly. "Fear is what strengthens them. Courage weakens them. Focus on your steps, your observations, your mission." The shadow beings seemed to sense this difference. The energy readings showed that they thrived on fear and uncertainty. Because the humans moved with calm determination, the shadow's movements became slower, less aggressive. Sara took careful notes. "Captain, their energy spikes decrease when we focus and stay confident. It's as if they feed on panic and hesitation. That is why the humanoids cry in fear," Myra said. "They have never faced them with courage. Humans are different. We meet terror with understanding and steady resolve." The crew walked further, and the shapes began to take on even stranger forms. Some looked like tall trees with twisting branches, others like swirling fog with a glowing core. The shadows tried to confuse the humans by mimicking movement or forming frightening illusions, but the team kept their focus. Each step forward made the shadows shrink slightly. Ramon whispered, "Captain, it feels like the path itself is alive. It is testing us, measuring our strength." Myra nodded. "Then we continue. We respect its rules, but we do not bow to fear. This path is not evil. It is a challenge, and we are prepared to face it." As the humans progressed, they discovered faint footprints in the black soil. They were not human footprints but impressions left by creatures who had walked the path long ago. The marks shimmered faintly under their lights, like traces of energy frozen in time. Sara examined them carefully. "These shadows have been here for centuries. They are not random. They are part of the path itself. The humanoids may call it cursed, but it has rules, and we are beginning to understand them." The humanoids continued to watch from a distance, whispering among themselves. Some of their fear remained, but small sparks of curiosity and hope appeared. They had never seen anyone meet the path's power with such courage. Slowly, they began to ask if the horror path could be faced without dying. The shadows paused, circling the humans cautiously. For the first time, they seemed uncertain. These humans did not flee, did not panic, and did not cry out. Their calm, their steady steps, made the shadows hesitate. Myra spoke quietly to her crew. "We are showing them a new way. Courage changes everything. Fear loses its control when we refuse to give it power." The crew moved steadily, documenting everything: the shapes, the energy fluctuations, the strange symbols along the path, and even the reactions of the humanoids. The horror path was no longer just a place of terror, it was a living test, one that humans were slowly learning to navigate. By evening, the shadows had grown smaller, their forms less threatening. The energy pulses from the road were still strong, but the humans had shown the first real signs of control. They had faced the shadow beings directly and walked forward without faltering. The humanoids cried again, but this time their voices were mixed with wonder. They had never imagined that courage could diminish the path's power. Some whispered that perhaps the humans could succeed where others had failed. Myra stood at the edge of the camp as they rested. She looked back at the endless black road. "Tomorrow," she said softly, "we go further. The path has tests ahead, but we are learning its language. Courage is our guide. Knowledge is our shield. Fear cannot touch us if we do not give it a hold." And deep in the darkness of the horror path, the shadow beings observed carefully. These humans were different from those who had come before. They were fearless, determined, and clever. The path itself seemed to pause, unsure how to respond to beings who refused to bow to its power. Humanity had faced the first true challenge of the horror path and had begun to teach the shadows that courage could change the rules of fear. The humans had been walking the horror path for several days, and the shadows along the road had grown stronger, more daring. They moved faster now, reaching toward the edges of the humans' vision, twisting into shapes meant to frighten. Captain Myra led her crew steadily, her eyes calm and determined. Lieutenant Ramon adjusted his scanner. "Captain, they are stronger today. Their energy pulses are faster. They are testing us more aggressively." Myra nodded. "Then we meet the test with calm. Remember, fear strengthens them. Courage weakens them. We have learned their pattern. Follow it carefully, and we will continue safely." The humanoids watched from their distant shelters. Their cries rose again, echoing across the plains. They feared what the humans faced, yet a small part of them wondered if the path's power could be resisted. Some whispered quietly, noticing the humans moving steadily despite the shadow's attempts to terrify them. As the humans advanced, the shadow beings became bolder. Figures rose higher, twisting and stretching with long, dark arms that seemed to reach for the humans' minds. Illusions formed, showing frightening visions of past explorers lost to the path. The whispers of failure and doom floated through the air. Ramon swallowed hard but kept his focus. "Captain, they are trying to scare us with memories and voices." Myra's voice was calm. "Do not respond. They have no power over what we control. Focus on your steps, your breathing, your mission. Courage is stronger than their illusions." The crew moved as one, ignoring the shadow's tricks. They noticed that every time they focused on calm observation, the shadow's forms faltered, losing clarity and definition. The energy readings spiked when the humans hesitated but dropped whenever they moved with determination. Lieutenant Sara pointed to a cluster of symbols glowing faintly on the path. "Captain, these markings are reacting to us. They pulse less when we are steady. They may be part of the shadow's power. Perhaps they are a map, or a guide, to show how courage can weaken the darkness." Myra nodded. "Then we follow the signs and continue. The path is teaching us, but it can only harm those who give in to fear." The shadow beings intensified their efforts, trying to surround the humans from both sides. Their forms twisted into shapes meant to confuse and frighten. Some looked like massive beasts with glowing eyes, others like swirling mists ready to swallow the crew. Yet the humans stayed together, walking steadily, their minds focused on observation and understanding rather than panic. From afar, the humanoids cried louder, their voices trembling with worry. They had never witnessed anyone confront the path's power so directly. Their fear was natural, but the humans' courage amazed them. Slowly, they began to whisper to one another about the possibility that fear was not unbeatable. The shadows hesitated. Their energy readings weakened slightly. The illusions flickered and broke apart as the humans continued to focus on calm movement. They had begun to show the first signs of vulnerability. Courage, it seemed, could indeed challenge the horror path. Myra stopped briefly, holding out a hand to her crew. "We are doing what no one else has done. The path is strong, but we are stronger when we refuse to fear. Keep moving. Observe. Learn. Fear cannot harm us if we do not give it power." The crew resumed walking, recording every change. They noticed patterns in the shadow's movements, sequences in the glowing symbols, and subtle changes in the energy pulses. Each observation strengthened their understanding. The path, though terrifying, had rules, and humans were learning them. Ramon said quietly, "Captain, the shadows are weaker when we focus on the symbols. They seem to guide us, not just frighten us." "That is why we study," Myra replied. "The path is not evil. It is a challenge. It responds to courage, not violence. Observation and calm can change what it does." By evening, the shadow beings had begun to retreat slightly. The energy spikes decreased. The humans had faced the strongest displays yet they moved forward unafraid. The road ahead remained long and black, but the crew had proven something new: courage could push back against the power of fear. The humanoids, still watching from afar, whispered among themselves. Some were crying from relief, others in awe. They had never seen anyone face the horror path without panicking. The humans' courage had shown them that fear was not absolute. Myra looked down the road ahead. "Tomorrow," she said softly to her team, "we will face more challenges, but we are ready. The path responds to fear. We have chosen courage. That is our greatest strength." Deep in the shadows, the figures stirred cautiously. They had sensed something new. Humans were different from those who had come before. Fear did not control them. They were strong, clever, and determined. The horror path would have to change if it wanted to stop them. Humanity's journey along the path was becoming a lesson for the shadows and the humanoids alike. Courage could overcome even the darkest fear, and knowledge, combined with bravery, could make the impossible possible. The humans had walked deeper into the horror path than anyone had ever dared. The shadows along the edges of the black road were weaker now, their movements slower, as if uncertain how to respond. Captain Myro led her crew steadily, her calm determination lighting the way. Lieutenant Ramon adjusted the energy scanner. "Captain, the readings are changing. The path itself seems unstable. The shadows are losing power." Myra nodded. "We have shown them that fear does not control us. Keep moving. Observe everything. The path is teaching us its rules, and we are learning faster than it expected." The humanoids watched from a distance, crying, trembling, yet their voices held hints of awe. They had never seen anyone move through the path without panic. Slowly, they whispered among themselves, realizing that the humans' courage might be enough to challenge the path's dark power. The humans discovered faint lines of energy running along the road. They glowed softly, pulsing with the rhythm of the path's power. Sarah knelt to examine them. "These lines, they respond to us. When we stay calm, they fade slightly. When we hesitate, they brighten. It's as if the path reacts to our state of mind." Myro looked at the crew. "Then we control it with courage. Fear feeds it, confidence weakens it. Let us walk carefully but steadily. Knowledge is our weapon, courage is our shield." As they continued, the shadows tried one last effort to scare them. Figures rose higher, twisting into impossible shapes with glowing cores. They formed illusions of falling cliffs and deep pits. Whispers of danger and failure echoed along the road. Ramon gripped his equipment, keeping his breathing steady. "Captain, they are trying everything. Their energy spikes are higher than before." Myra remained calm. "Do not react. Fear is the power they feed on. We control our minds, and they have no hold over us." The crew focused on the glowing lines and symbols on the road. Step by step, they moved forward. Slowly, the shadows' forms faltered. The illusions flickered and disappeared. The energy pulses dropped sharply. Sarah whispered with amazement, "Captain, the path itself is changing. The shadows are fading. We are breaking its control." Myra smiled faintly. "That is why we continue. Courage and observation together can overcome even the darkest challenge." From the distance, the humanoids cried again, but this time, their voices carried wonder as well as fear. They saw the humans moving confidently while the shadows weakened. For the first time in generations, they realized that the horror path might not be unbeatable. The humans placed small energy beacons along the road as they advanced. The devices emitted steady pulses, designed to stabilize the fluctuations in the path's energy. As the beacons glowed, the shadows recoiled, shrinking into smaller, less threatening forms. Ramon watched carefully. "Captain, the beacons are working. The energy readings are dropping rapidly. The shadows cannot maintain their strength." Myra nodded. "Good. Every step forward teaches us more. Every calm action weakens their hold. Courage is not just a feeling, it is a tool we use to change the path itself. The humanoids gathered closer, still fearful but now curious. They whispered quietly, amazed that the humans could challenge what had terrified them for generations. Some dared to step closer to the edge of the road, watching the shadows shrink under the humans' steady presence. The path, once dark and oppressive, began to lose its weight. The air felt lighter, the shadows shorter, and the strange energy pulses weaker. The humans' courage and careful observation had begun to break the curse that had ruled this road for so long. Myra looked down the black horizon. Tomorrow, we will go even further. The path has fewer tricks left, but we remain careful. Knowledge and courage guide us, and fear has no power here. As night fell, the humans set up their camp at the edge of the road. The shadows were now small and hesitant. The energy readings were steady, and the black road no longer felt like it would consume them. The humanoids watched in silence, crying softly, not with terror this time, but with a mixture of awe and hope. They had never imagined that the horror path could be faced and overcome. Deep in the fading darkness, the shadow beings stirred cautiously. They had sensed a new power in the humans, an unshakable calm, a steady courage, and a sharp mind. They realized that these humans were different. Fear did not control them. Knowledge and bravery had challenged the path itself. Humanity had begun to break the curse of the horror path. The shadows had weakened. The path's power was no longer absolute. For the first time, the humanoids could imagine a world where the road could be walked without terror. Captain Myro looked at the crew, proud but vigilant. We are close to understanding the heart of this path. Courage has carried us this far. Knowledge has guided us. Tomorrow, we complete what we started. And so, the humans rested, ready to face the final stretch. The horror path, once feared by all, had begun to bend to the strength of courage and intelligence. Humanity's light was shining into the darkness, and the shadow beings knew that their hold would not last much longer. The sun rose slowly over the black horizon, casting soft light on the horror path. The humans had walked farther than anyone ever dared. The shadows that had once twisted and reached for them were now weak and hesitant. Captain Myro led her crew forward, their steps calm, their focus steady. Lieutenant Ramon checked the scanners. Captain, the energy readings are dropping rapidly. The shadows are almost gone. The path is losing its power. Myra nodded. We have shown the path that courage and knowledge are stronger than fear. Keep moving. Observe everything. Today, we finish what we started. The humanoids watched from a safe distance, their cries now quiet, filled with awe. They had never seen anyone move through the horror path with such calm determination. Some whispered among themselves, unable to believe their eyes. Could it be that the humans would succeed where generations had failed? As the crew advanced, the remaining shadows stretched weakly, trying one last effort to frighten them. They formed dark shapes of enormous creatures, illusions of falling cliffs, and swirling voids. Whispers of doom floated in the air, but the humans ignored them, their eyes fixed on the glowing symbols and the faint energy lines along the road. Lieutenant Sorrow whispered, "Captain, they are fading. They cannot maintain their forms." Myra smiled. "Then we walk steadily. Courage is our shield. Knowledge is our guide. They have no hold over us." The humans carefully placed more energy beacons along the path. Each one pulsed steadily, stabilizing the road's energy and weakening the shadows. Slowly, the black soil seemed to lose its oppressive weight. The shadows shrank, their forms becoming thin and insubstantial. From a distance, the humanoids gasped. Their cries were no longer only of fear, they were filled with wonder and relief. They had never imagined the horror path could be walked without terror. They began to step closer, watching the humans move confidently through the weakening darkness. Ramon looked around. "Captain, the path is almost clear." We are breaking the curse completely. Myra nodded. Then we continue. Step by step, calm and careful, until the path is behind us. The shadows will no longer frighten anyone if we finish this. As they moved forward, the symbols on the road glowed softly, then faded completely. The strange energy lines became steady, and the cold weight in the air lifted. The shadows, sensing that their power was gone, melted into nothingness. The humans walked the final stretch together. Their lights illuminated the black soil, and for the first time, the road seemed ordinary. The horror path was no longer dark and dangerous. It had been tested by courage and reason, and humanity had triumphed. The humanoids stepped forward carefully. They had never dared approach the road before, but now they looked at it with wonder instead of fear. Some touched the black soil, feeling its texture, realizing that it was no longer threatening. Their tears were mixed with awe and gratitude. Captain Myra spoke to them gently. The horror path is no longer a curse. Fear gave it power, but courage can overcome even the darkest places. Humans walked it and learned its ways. You can do the same if you face it with calm and strength. The humanoids listened quietly, amazed. They had seen the impossible, beings facing generations of terror and moving forward without panic. Slowly, they began to understand that courage, knowledge, and teamwork could change what seemed unchangeable. Deep in the black road, the shadows had vanished completely. The path that had taken countless explorers was now open and calm. The humans had not only survived, they had taught the humanoids a lesson about bravery and hope. Myra turned to her crew. We have finished this part of our journey. The path has been tested, and humanity has shown that fear is never stronger than courage. Remember this, knowledge and bravery can overcome even the darkest challenges. The humanoids gathered around, their eyes wide with admiration. Some touched the energy beacons, curious about the technology humans had used to stabilize the path. Others looked at the crew and smiled, finally understanding that terror was only as strong as those who believed in it. Ramon whispered to Myra, "Captain, they are learning from us. They will never fear the horror path again." Myra nodded. Yes. Humanity's courage has become their example. Fear can teach lessons, but courage can change the world. As the sun climbed higher, the aurora hovered above the planet, ready to lift off. The humans had completed the horror path. They had faced shadows that had haunted generations, tested the limits of courage, and triumphed through steady observation and bravery. The humanoids waved to the crew, their faces filled with gratitude and hope. They would never forget what they had seen. The horror path, once feared above all, had been transformed. Humanity had shown that courage, intelligence, and determination could conquer even the darkest fears. Captain Myra looked at the black road, now calm and peaceful, and whispered to herself, "We came to explore, to learn, and to face fear. Today, we have taught a new lesson. Fear can be overcome. Courage can shine even in darkness." With that, the aurora lifted off, carrying the humans away from the planet. Behind them, the horror path lay open and safe, a place where the shadows had lost their power, and the humanoids had learned that bravery could change everything. Humanity's journey along the path had ended, but the lessons of courage and strength would last forever.